And we are live. All right. I am here with the Matt Fish. The Matt Fish. By the way, we didn't discuss this. It is biblical. That's my middle name, by the way. Matthew. Yeah. And it's my son's name. So we didn't even discuss this
fantastic
prior to. It's a biblical, very holy name.
It is.
Yes. So we're going to discuss everything Matt Fish and his amazing empire that he's building with Melt Bar and Grill. But before we get that, a little quick word from our sponsor. Let's see if we can make this work. Yeah. Hey, Cleveland. This episode is brought to you by the friendly realtors at Stasek Group of eXp Realty. They have a proven, repeatable system. It's backed by market research to sell your home for up to 18% more than traditional real estate agents. So call them. You can call them at 440-925-1018. It's 440-925-1018, or go to stasekgroup.com. That's stasekgroup.com. All right. It worked. Matt.
Modern technology.
Yes, sir. Well, cheers.
Cheers to
Thanks
you.
for coming in. Happy Wednesday.
Is there alcohol in this? No, I like this office.
That's going to be the podcast number 2. We'll have to do some Moscow Mules in that.
Oh, that's the nighttime podcast.
Yes.
The After Dark podcast. I like that.
Yeah. So, Matt, I want to get into a lot of things. I got notes and obviously did my homework. But you're a Parma guy, so we're going to have a lot of pierogi talk going on today.
And we're relatively the same age, because if you graduated in 92, I graduated in 91. So that would make us 1 year apart.
Yeah.
I would be 46 and you'd be 45.
I'm actually 46.
Oh, when's your birthday?
October.
Okay. Yeah, mine's in March, so I'll be turning 47 in March.
Yeah. So almost the same age.
Almost.
Yeah. I'm trying to catch you.
Close. No, it's a bad. You stay back where you're at. It's better.
So before we get into Melt, let's talk about the beginning. You grew up in Parma. I grew up in Parma. Mm-hmm. Love Parma. Got a lot of roots, and it's so big. There's so many people and so many connections that have helped me and grow in my career as well. But tell me about your upbringing in Parma, because I'm sure that leads into why Melt.
It does. Yeah. I mean, I'm a Parma kid. I mean, I'm proud of my upbringing, proud of where I was. Came from a basic middle-class family, 2 parents, me and my brother. We lived in the very north part of Parma, right on the cusp of Parma and Old Brooklyn for many years, until I think I was 12-ish. And then we moved to South Parma, down by Seven Hills. So we grew up, I really grew up, my formative years, we're down in the Pleasant Valley and Broadview area, right over there behind Normandy. Was playing in rock bands over there. I fell in love with Kiss, Black Sabbath, AC/DC, all the 70s rock bands. I stocked shelves at the Marks that was up there at the corner, the Fazios, the Rini Rigos. When I was a kid, I had a paper route in my neighborhood. So I was always hustling. That was my thing. I came from a family where I mowed the lawn because I had to, not because it was part of my allowance.
Right.
We didn't get allowances as kids. So all the chores we did around the house was because we had a roof over our head and we had dinner every night, and my dad and my mom provided for us. So if I wanted something, I had to go earn it. So I had a paper out at a young age. I was stocking shelves. Even before I could drive cars, I was out there hustling. So I was the kid who had the garage sales. I was a kid who had the lemonade stand. I was the kid that if I wanted that bike, I saved up for it, kind of thing. So. Yeah. My parents, fortunately, instilled a really good work ethic in me. So I was always very entrepreneurial driven, even when I was playing in rock bands, back in the days. I'm still playing music, but not to the level where I was trying to get to. But I was always the leader. I was always the guy that was either buying the van, buying the trailer, finding the equipment, booking the shows, driving, getting us here, getting us everywhere, and collecting my drunk friends at the end of the night and getting everybody home, safely. So it just led into my culinary career. I got a restaurant job in Parma. I don't know if you are familiar, but at Grantwood and Broadview, there's a little pizza joint called Rocky's Pizza.
Yep.
And that was my first restaurant job. I got that right out of high school. I was actually stocking shelves at Mark's, and I was dating a girl at the time. And all good stories start with a girl somehow, some way. So she was working at Rocky's at the time. So I would find myself, after I was done with my shift, I would go down and hang out with her while she was working. And I was it was a mom and pop shop, very, not a lot of employees. So I was always jumping in and helping her when it got busy, answering the phones, making pizzas, taking deliveries, washing dishes, clearing tables, doing that stuff. And I've always cooked at home with my parents, but I never cooked commercially. So I found myself going there not to hang out with her, but but to actually work for free. So I said, this is kind of stupid. So I quit my jobs and I got a job over at the restaurant there, full time, working side by side with her. And then, it didn't really work working with your significant other sometimes. So we kind of clashed once we worked together. So she ended up quitting. I stayed.
How old were you?
I was probably 19 at the time, 18, 19, right out of high school, like I said. And so I was going to Tri-C at the time in the Western campus, taking general classes that would potentially go anywhere because I had no idea what I wanted to do with the rest of my life. I was chasing a music dream. I was dating girls. I was still living at home, and I was just having fun. I was a kid out of high school, So once I found the restaurant gig, I said, wow, this is really cool. I love this. So I figured out that Tri-C has a culinary program, a hospitality management program at their downtown campus. So I enrolled in that, took the one-on-one class, really fell in love with it. So dived into it, finished up there, and then really just cut my teeth in the local restaurant scene for about 15 years after that. But I always had a dream, a goal, a desire to do something on my own, open my own business. That was an ultimate goal of mine, even from when I was a kid. I just didn't know what it was going to be, how it was going to look, what it was going to feel, what it was even going to be. Right. And then once I got in the restaurant industry, the light bulb went off, and I was like, oh, I'm going to open up a restaurant someday. So here I am, 2019.
Did the thought ever cross your mind through that entire beginning part of your journey that there's really no way I'm going to be able to work for someone else the rest of my life? I'm going to be my own boss at one point. Is that
I've had ups and downs with ownership and running businesses for other people. I've had very positive experiences where I probably could have stayed there for the rest of my career because it was such a family environment. And then I've had other experiences where I can't wait to get the heck out of here. These people don't know what the heck they're doing. I feel, and that's really what drove me eventually to open my own place, was like, I have a knack for this. I feel confident that I could do this as good or better than the people I'm working for, because I was running, kitchens and running restaurants for people. So that's really what the driving force was. But yeah, now that I am in my own environment, I've owned my own business now for, going on 14 years. It would be very difficult to go backwards and have to work for somebody else. Could I do it? Yeah, of course. I mean, the restaurant world especially is very, very volatile, and who knows what tomorrow's even going to bring. It's changed so much in the last 13, 15 years that I've been, as Melt Barn Grill, and even previous, I've seen so many changes, and it's really hard to even tell the future of what's tomorrow going to bring, especially in the restaurant industry, the service industry in general.
Right. I don't really see it going there. I mean, there's disruption happening in a lot of industries. They're trying to even disrupt ours. But I mean, people still love going out to eat. I just don't see that going away anytime soon.
They don't. But it's what people are looking for. That is the weird part. And people's dining habits and how they dine out and how they eat in general is completely different. Not that we need to go down this road, but the quick service restaurant has changed the restaurant landscape. Yeah. The convenience age that we live in, the cell phones that are in all of our pockets. I mean, that has changed the way that people find business, the way they find food, what they eat. It really drives the traffic to restaurants or not to restaurants. Yeah. Social media is enormous.
So let's talk about that. Wasn't planning on going here, but I love it because, part of my business with real estate is you have to keep up with technology. Yeah. You're either going to evolve with it, or it could end up disrupting you. And one of my favorite pizza places, and do you guys serve pizza?
We do not.
You don't. So, okay, we can talk about Angela's Pizza is one of my, that's kind of what, almost every single, Tom's a great guy, the owner, and he sponsors some of our charity stuff, but they do not participate in Uber Eats or what's the other one?
DoorDash. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on?
Well, they have their own delivery service. I mean, they have their own delivery drivers.
They do, but they don't come to Bay Village.
They don't. So that's a little.
And I'm okay with it. I drive to Lakewood because we had our first home was in Lakewood, and we lived there as well. I love Lakewood.
That's where I fell in love with them when I was living in Lakewood.
Yeah. I mean, you can't not.
They make a really good product. They really do.
They do, and they got great staff.
Very consistent.
Their staff is just on point. But what were your thoughts when that came out? Have you adapted Melt and gone with it? And what has it done for your sales and business? Have you seen an uptick? Have you seen less people coming to the restaurant, or the same amount of people coming into your restaurant?
The delivery services in general, I have a very love-hate relationship with them. They obviously bring more business to the table, but it comes at a cost. because we're not really splitting, the profit, but there's some sort of payment that has to go back to these delivery service. They're certainly not, doing it for free, and they're not putting the onus on the guest. They're taking money from the guest for delivery, but they're also taking a percentage of our sales. And that's DoorDash, Uber Eats. That's even the local guys like delivermefood.com. We use a guy in Columbus called Bite Squad, which is exclusive to Columbus, but they're actually a small-time national company, and they're in different pockets. I like them, but even within my company, there's people that we agree to disagree, and they feel like it's not 100% necessary. Where I feel like, you know what, this is the way the world is moving. The millennials are basically running the ship right now. Like whatever the millennials want, that is what every single corporation, not even service industry, you name it. I mean, every corporation is looking at people that are way younger than us. We have nothing to do with what people are making decisions on anymore, right? Who people are marketing to, what products are out there, what fashion's out there, what food is out there. They could give a rat's ass about the 40-year-olds and above. They're worried about the 20-somethings, So I like the delivery services because we have a good relationship with Uber Eats and DoorDash. It comes with a cost. It comes with dealing with delivery drivers that we don't employ, so we have to kind of put up with the good, the bad, the ugly sometimes. But it gets our food out to people, and I was very skeptical. I mean, we've been doing delivery services since day one because Deliver Me Food is a local company here in Cleveland, and I actually worked with them at my previous job at Johnny Mango down in Ohio City before I even opened Emyth. So this is going back almost 20 years now, and he was the first guy in Greater Cleveland to bring delivery. He saw it on the West Coast. He worked with it. He brought it to Cleveland, and he's still in business. And I was like, who is going to pick up the phone and have somebody deliver food to them? But it really hit home when we first started working with them with Emyth, where I was getting orders from people that lived the street next to the restaurant. Like literally within 3.5-minute walk of my front door, we were getting delivery orders from. So when I saw that, I was like, you know what, there's something to this. Like if I'm sitting at home in my pajamas and if I'm watching Netflix or whatever, do I want to get dressed and go get food? No, somebody's going to drop it off at your house.
Well, because the pizza shops and parlors have been doing it forever.
They have been.
And they were like the only people, it seems like they figured it out, that people just want, they may not want to get dressed and go out and and this cloud-based type of an app comes out to where you can hit the button and guilty as charged. I mean, we've ordered from Emyth, we've ordered from everywhere, you name it. But we actually like going into Emyth better, and here's the reason why. It goes back to what you were saying, the people, it's the experience. I'm a music guy too. We're going to get to the music influence in a minute. You might have walked around my office and saw music concerts and everything. And music's a big part of my life. It's a big part of our business we've incorporated in, but not as much as you. I mean, one of the favorite things I like, other than the food at Emyth, we go there with my wife and boys, is I look around and it's the experience of just seeing all the different albums and all the different pictures of all the different cool. And I've been to Lakewood, and I've been to the one on Rockside and Avon.
Nice.
Independence, yep. And Avon, that one's closest to us now. But the one in Avon, you got some really killer stuff in there.
Thank you.
And I was about to be like, man, I should call him and see where he's getting some of this stuff, because I have a room that's kind of set aside for that kind of stuff.
I'll hook you up. I got a buddy.
House, yeah.
Actually, all those posters that we have at Emyth come from one guy who actually is a very funny story, and he'll probably kill me for telling it. But I met him back at a former restaurant job when I was working in Brecksville, Ohio, and he used to be a police officer. He used to walk in the back door. He was a Brecksville cop and super nice guy. He would walk in the back door literally every day on his shift. We'd shoot the breeze and talk for a couple minutes, and then he'd take off and go. When I left that job and moved on, I completely lost track of him. And it was about 3 or 4 years ago, maybe 4 years ago-ish now. I was at the Independence location, and I was working in the back or something, and the host comes up. He's like, yeah, there's some long hair, beard, freaky looking dude out front. He says he knows you. And I was like, okay. He says his name is Bear. And I'm like, really? Like, this was this guy's name, Bear. And I'm like, there's no way it's the same guy. So I go out there, and there's this long hair, big beard dude, and it's him. I'm like, what happened to you?
That wasn't the cop that you knew.
No, I was like, what happened to you? And then he tells me this long, drawn out story. And then and I never knew this about his history, but he was the premier and the only poster artist for Belkin Productions back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. He started bootlegging posters from rock bands in the late 60s that were coming to Cleveland, and he would sell these posters in the parking lot. Like, you have t-shirt guys back in the day that would walk the parking lot. Well, he was the poster guy. He would
Bills.
Yeah.
The real cool,
he would make these posters for the rock bands at the Coliseum and the arena downtown. And he'd walk the parking lot and he'd sell these things for $5 or $10 a piece. And somebody from Belkin Productions figured out that he was bootlegging these posters. And instead of kicking him out, they actually called him into their office and said, "Hey, you do a good job. Why don't you come work for us instead of peddling your wares out in the street?" So he, from then on, became Belkin's only poster guy. So he made a poster for every band that Belkin did from in all the 70s, all in the 80s, and even into the early 90s.
Wow.
And he owns the original art for all these posters too. Belkin doesn't own it. He owns it. So he's had these things in his archives for years. And then after he got out of the police force and he had some personal things happen to him and he's kind of get back into it, he's bringing this poster business back. So where he has an online service and he's selling this stuff. It's called Raw Sugar Studios. So if you're interested, it's rawsugarstudios.com. And
because bears like sugar.
I don't know. I never asked him about that. I think that was the name of his art studio back when he was doing this back in the like the 60s and 70s. And he's got every poster up there. He will print them. He ships them out all over the world. He sells stuff worldwide.
I need Dip Bear's number.
I will give it to you.
I
don't have it on me.
It actually could be dangerous.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure I already have some of Bear's, bills from other Belkin shows because I have several hanging in my little music room at home. But I'd love his contact information.
It is an archive of Cleveland history, like literally going back to the Beatles and the Stones playing in like the early 60s. He's got all that stuff. It's crazy. And the cool thing with him, and I know some old photographers that used to take pictures at these shows. So I've got old black and whites. I've got these posters. So I match them up at the stores, so here's the poster and then here's the show, here's this. And it's really cool to do that. We don't have it for every poster, but I'm a huge music nerd and I just love Cleveland history. So to me, the music history of what Cleveland is even for me is stronger than the sports legacies or the political environment, things like that. Like the bands that started here, got their big break here or continue to tour here, I think that's really cool.
Tell me about how you married that love for the music and actually on Cleveland as well. Because a lot of the other cool thing is that at least in that Avon one, which is where I paid more attention to exactly what was on each poster, a lot of them were Cleveland shows.
They're all Cleveland shows.
They're all Cleveland shows.
Every one
That's
of
so
them.
Cool.
Yeah.
How did you marry the idea of music and food together in the way you did it? Because you've seen it done in other places, other ways, but I think that what's unique about the way you did it, it is Cleveland music, not just music like you would see maybe at a House of Blues and stuff.
Yeah, like I was never going to put up a poster for a show that happened in LA or New York or Chicago because it doesn't resonate to people. I mean, sure, the band name does, but I want things at Melt to resonate to people that are here in Cleveland. We're a Cleveland organization. We're a Cleveland company. This is where our corporate office is. And no matter if we end up being a worldwide or a nationwide company, which I highly doubt will ever happen, but if it does, this is still our home base. But to answer the big answer to your question is that when I first started Melt back in 2006, I never thought it was going to turn into what it is. I was not planning expansion. I was not planning on growing it. It was going to be, we are a Lakewood company. We have a little storefront restaurant in Lakewood. We seat 50 people. Here's a small kitchen. I'm going to work here with 12 people, me and 12 employees, and this is going to be the rest of my life. I live right up the street. I can walk here. I can drive here, whatever. But I also knew that I wanted to open up something that was very personal to me. I'm going to be working at Melt basically for the rest of my life if Melt exists that long. It's going to be my company. I'm going to run it. I'm going to operate it. I'm going to do what I do with it. So I better create something that I like. I better create something that I'm not going to get sick of.
Right.
So that's where the decor and the Cleveland kind of the Cleveland basic, the music around the restaurant, the food, the atmosphere, all the stuff you see at Melt, the sights, the sounds, the smells. It's all stuff. I was just trying to create this restaurant utopia, this really cool place that if I was an outsider, I would have wanted to hang out at all the time. So fortunately, a bunch of people in Cleveland also felt the same way, and it resonated with a lot of people. So that's kind of what propelled us for the expansion, and it really got the ball rolling. That people just seemed to dig it, and it was it was really cool.
How'd you come up with the idea of putting the menu on an album?
That was
that
was actually one of the last decisions I made. Believe it or not, two of the last decisions I made for the restaurant were how to present the menu to the guests, but also the actual name of the restaurant. I was at almost like the 11th hour before I came up with both of those things, because just nothing was popping for either one. I had a couple names floating around, but I didn't want it to be weird and kitschy. I really wanted it to be unique and fun and kind of sum up what we were trying to do. So that's where Melt Bar and Grill came from. But the record album things, I'm a record guy. I'm a music guy. I wanted to tie that in somehow, the nostalgia aspect, because Melt's big in nostalgia. And record albums at that time, this is, going back 13, 14 years ago. So record albums were kind of on the decline. They were on their way out. They hadn't really gotten the resurgence that they got today. So I had a bunch of record albums at home. So I rated my record collection, and on my personal computer at home, I'm dating myself, back 13 years ago, I somehow, developed because it's a 12 by 12. A record album is a 12 by 12. So it's a 12 by 12 piece of paper. And I used, Photoshop, and I designed the whole thing, and I sent it to a printer that I know. And we had 12 by 12 pieces of paper printed with the Melt menu on there. And I got spray adhesive from the hardware store, and I sprayed the backs of the menus, and I slapped the piece of paper on there. And that was our first menu. I had about 500 records at home at the time. And so the first 500 record album.
You used your own, no kidding.
I did. Yeah. Because this was the time when I was still collecting music, and I had record albums and I had CDs, and I basically had anything that I truly loved on both formats.
Right.
So I didn't feel so bad about saying I'm giving up this vinyl. I had it on another format.
Did you put the vinyl as a decor in the restaurant?
No. I kept the vinyl, and I still have some of the vinyl of those records, but the sleeves are way gone. And that was a big talking point for Melt Bar and Grill back in the early days. That was these record album menus, because again, no one had ever seen them before. It was really cool. It was fun. It was personal. It also was a great conversation starter, because if you could put four people at the same table who don't know each other, you can give each four of them a different record album, and we'd always serve the menus record side up.
Yeah.
So you'd see what you're getting, and a lot of them were just conversation starters, like, oh, look who I got. People would talk about that way before they even talk about, what are you guys going to drink today? What are you going to eat today?
I love it. Let's go let's go deep on some leadership stuff.
Deep.
Yeah. So I love this question. I love asking it to other leaders who've scaled, because I'm not saying that running one restaurant is easy, because I don't believe that it is. I believe that one restaurant is extremely difficult. But how many are you up to now?
10.
10. My gosh.
That's a lot more difficult.
Mentor opened up. Let's real quick. If we go down, we got
Lakewood. I can even do the years. It's 2006 is when we first opened up. So Lakewood opened in 2006, and then we expanded the first location 2 different times. In 2007, we put a patio in. 2008, we expanded to the second storefront. So now we have 2 storefronts and a patio, and we're at all 4 walls. And then we decided to expand out to Cleveland Heights. So we opened Cleveland Heights in 2010, and that's what really pushed the snowball off the hill, and it just started rolling and getting bigger and bigger. And we were still popular, still getting landlords asking, hey, come here. People really wanted to see us expand. And I'm an opportunist. I mean, I like, I saw the wave, and I'm like, let's jump on this wave and let's ride it. Let's see where it goes and what happens. So then 2011 was Independence and Rockside, and just going into a little businessy background. So we had Lakewood, which is a very neighborhood walkable city. We had Cleveland Heights, which is very neighborhood walkable, not really necessarily on a major retail outlet or not near a mall or anything like that. Independence was more of a strategic plan with myself and then the real estate, the commercial real estate people I was working with at the time, where we said and they said, look, we've already proven that Melt works in the urban areas, in a neighborhood. Let's go to a completely different neighborhood. Let's go to a concrete jungle. Let's go to Rockside, right by 77, hotels, huge office parks, big daytime population, but not necessarily a lot of nighttime population. Let's see what happens. So that was an experiment to say, if we could prove that Melt worked in the neighborhoods and we can prove that Melt can work in those and then in the business area, then I think we have something here. So we opened up Independence 2011, ended up being our busiest location, believe it or not. It still is.
Wow.
So then 2012, we went to Mentor. And then 2013 was our first Columbus location. 2014 was our second Columbus location. We skipped 2015. 2016 was Akron. And then in 2017, we opened up 4 stores in 1 year. That was Dayton, Avon, Canton, and the Cedar Point location, which is technically number 11 if you really want to.
I didn't know about Cedar Point.
Yeah,
I didn't know about Dayton.
Dayton was,
love Dayton.
Yeah, Dayton was we're at a mall in Dayton, Fairfield Commons, which is a little bit north of the city, up by the Air Force Base. That was early. That was June 2017. And the Cedar Point opportunity, we are actually inside the park at Cedar Point. They had a tired restaurant concept that was in there, a big location. It had been in a restaurant since the 60s. Yeah. And they were looking to do something different with the space. They were looking to put something in there, and they weren't sure what to do. So it was just happened that we follow Cedar Point on our social media, and they follow us. Yeah. And we were kind of talking casually back and forth, and they dropped this question one day. They're like, "Hey, when are you guys coming to Cedar Point to open up a location?" We're like, "What? Are you serious?" And I was running social media at that time. I said, "If you're serious, we're serious." And I said, "Send me an email." Yeah. So the next day, the park director sent me an email and said, "Yeah, we'd love to have you guys out to see what happens, to see if you're interested."
Fit. So for that environment, I think
it was fun.
It's perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. So we just finished our 3rd season out there and had our best year ever there. It's fun. It's a moneymaker for us. We don't run the space. That's a management agreement we have with the food service operators that run the Cedar Point. So we design the menu. We give them our recipes, or we sell them our food from our production facility. We go out and help train the staff, but they hire the staff, they train the staff, they run the operation for us. We have the ability to go out there every single day if we want to and check on them, which is kind of cool.
Like a licensing agreement.
It's a marketing license agreement, same thing. Yep. Yeah. So we get a percentage of sales from them, but they do a fantastic job. They have great food service operation people. They put an actual management team in place. We've had some returning staff now for the last 3 years. It's a scaled back menu. It's probably about 60 to 75% of the stuff you can get at regular Melt. But it's actually our biggest location. It's 220 seats. It's huge. Wow. But it's only open 140 days of the year. Right. Yeah, and they pack them in. It's nuts there. Yeah, this last season was really good. A for Cedar Point, but B for Melt. And this year at Cedar Point, it's their 150th year anniversary, which is crazy. So we're really getting excited about that. We're meeting with the team in early January to talk about some cool things we can do at the Melt space for the 150th anniversary. So 10 locations. Mm-hmm. And we just said, running one restaurant location isn't easy, let alone 10. And I know that you must have some amazing, you can't do it without leadership. No. My question for you is, this is the deep one. Uh-oh. Ready? What did you have to change? What did you have to become aware of and maybe change about your leadership, either ability, skills, what did you have to learn differently that wasn't required when you were just running Lakewood? Mm-hmm. Versus now you have 10 locations. I have to imagine you have an entire, middle management team to help you with this. What did you have to change about Matt Fish in order for you to scale the way you did quickly? Yeah. I want to say everything, but my personality hasn't changed. The way I approach business, the way I approach life hasn't changed. However, I'm a lot more cautious than I ever have been. I was the shoot from the hip guy forever, and I still am for the most part. A lot of decisions we've made have been very calculated and strategic and thought through, and a lot of decisions I've made have just been like, let's just throw it out there and see what happens. Like no research, no thought, let's just go. I got a feeling about this. But to answer your question, I think just delegation of responsibility became huge for me. It became 100% necessary. I realized very quickly after opening the second restaurant in Cleveland Heights that I cannot be in 2 places at the same time. Believe it or not, I've tried, but you cannot do it. I cannot be in Cleveland Heights and Lakewood at the same time. So I was a big part of Melt when we first opened. I was there 7 days a week, open to close every single day. I did not take a day off. And I was working when we first opened, that 100, 110 hours a week. I've scaled back since then, but even today, 13, 14 years later, I'm still 6 to 7 days a week. I'm still, 70 to 80 hours a week, but that's a different story. what I had to change was to understand that I can't do this by myself. I need to have other people involved that I trust, but also that are smarter and better than me. I had to hire people that can do, something better than me. And I've realized that, that there's way better people out there that can do certain things. I was great in the kitchen for a long time, but I started to amass a good team of people that were better than me, that are better than me at bar management, that are better than me in financing, that are better than me about problem solving. I'm very good at certain things, and that's what I focus on nowadays, but I'm not in operations much because I'm good at it, but it's not my strength. I need to be other places. Yeah. I've got 10, it's after 11 o'clock right now. So we have 10 locations that are open and operating right now. And I'm sitting here in an office in Westlake talking to you. So we obviously are keeping business running. There's people in place that have keys, that open the doors, that get everything ready to go. We have servers, hosts, bartenders, line cooks, managers that do a lot of stuff. We went very quickly from 12 employees to 350 employees. It was like that, very quickly over the last 13 years. And if we continue to expand, and when we continue to expand, that number should go up. But the big thing that I changed was just realizing that I can't do this on my own, and that was what people were asking me when we opened up the second restaurant, or when I was gearing up to open a second restaurant. I was like, how are you going to do this? Like, you can't be at the same place in two. Yeah. You're going to have a crew here and a crew here. And you're, how are you going to handle this personally and professionally? And I was like, I don't know. I'll figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to figure it out, or something always gives, right?
Yeah. And, fortunately for us, a lot of things did give, but nothing that was super detrimental to the company. We had some missteps, of course. We fell in holes. We didn't fall in huge pitfalls that we couldn't climb out of. The restaurant industry is so fickle, it's like the guests are so fickle. And, even when I wasn't at the store, people would get frustrated. Like, well, where's Matt? Matt's always here. Yeah. Matt's not here. So it's not going to be as good. It's like, well, and over the last 13 years, we've worked on food quality. We've worked on service levels. We've worked on atmosphere quality to where we've really dialed it in to where we have, I think, we always, we make mistakes like everybody else does, but we've got it to a point where it's very consistent. The experience is consistent, the service levels, the food quality, all that kind of stuff, to where if you and I were to go to Avon right now and order something, and then we drive back to Independence and we order the same thing, it should be, and it will be very similar. And what I mean very similar is like 97, 98% exactly the same. There's small nuances that'll be different. Yeah. Because I want each restaurant to be slightly different. I don't design them the same way. They're not cookie cutter. It's not like, back in the day when you walk into a Fridays or an Applebee's or a Red Lobster or something, when we were kids, everyone looked the same. Didn't matter if you went to a Red Lobster in Cleveland, or you went to a Red Lobster in Florida. It's like, you're there. Yeah. It's like the same thing. I want Melt to be similar to that, to where if we walk into a Melt Bar and Grill, no matter where you are, you're at a Melt. Yeah. But I want them to all have their own unique personality. I want them to look different, feel different, that kind of thing. And I think I've achieved that to the most part.
I'm going to be down in Columbus next Monday, and I'm going to check out one of those two locations.
Do your research.
For sure. Yeah. And I'd like to, did you decorate Columbus with Cleveland stuff, or
when we went to Columbus back in 2013, I realized, like, I can't be a Cleveland brand in Columbus. I would love to. Yeah. And there's a lot of Cleveland transplants, and there's a lot of expats from Cleveland down there. So we could have done it. But once we did that, and we knew, hey, we're expanding in Ohio. So I went from being a Cleveland brand to an Ohio brand. Sure. And I made a conscious switch to say, so the Columbus locations are heavy Columbus, but they have pieces of Cleveland and even pieces of Cincinnati in there, just Ohio in general. Sure. So I looked for a lot of Ohio memorabilia, obviously a lot of Ohio State, Buckeyes, Columbus, you know, old black and white pictures of downtown Columbus and things. But you can see there's Indians, Browns, Cavs down there. There's some Reds and, you know, Bengals stuff down there. There's some black and whites of Cleveland, just a memory trigger stuff for people. But it's primarily Columbus, but you've got pieces parts.
That's cool.
But then Dayton is very heavy Dayton. Yeah. Akron is very heavy Akron. Canton is very heavy Canton.
You have to.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like how we think of Cleveland. It's exactly how Akron thinks of Akron, and
exactly
Columbus is Columbus. So
I wanted it to resonate to the people that are in those communities, where I wanted them to see stuff like Clevelanders walking like, oh, I forgot about that. Or they see something on the wall that they never recognize, you know, or they haven't seen in ages. So I want the same thing to happen. So
okay, we're good. Yeah. 11:40. We're good. As long as we're before noon, I'm good if you're good.
Yeah, I have to be at another meeting at like 1:30, so I'm good.
So this is a question for anybody that, if there's anyone watching this that has their first restaurant up and running, and you have that entrepreneurial spirit, and you're thinking of scaling.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
If you have time to get out of it, get out of it.
Yeah, right. What would you say your most important key hire was? And I'm not saying that you have to name the person's name, but I'm talking about in relation to your ability to scale, that leadership piece, that the person who can make a decision without saying, "Hey, what do I need to, what are your thoughts?" You just trust them that they're going to make the right decision.
Yeah, I mean, I assembled a regional management team several years ago, and it used to be 8 people strong, me, myself including. Now it's scaled back to 6 people strong, because we realized over time that we have too many people, and we've had to realize over the last couple of years that we need to do more with less. And that's financially, that's just that, we've got too many people doing not enough stuff. So we're all wearing more hats than we ever have before. But I've got everybody on the regional management team now, 6 people, including me. So 5 others besides myself. We are all responsible for certain aspects of the company, and we all make decisions on our own. I mean, there's a think tank that gets together every so often. If we have to make big decisions, or if something big happens, or hey, here's a concern, or here's a problem that we all have to solve together. But in general, separately, we all handle our business. We all handle our own departments. We all kind of go in and out of each other's, but we try not to, and we typically don't step on each other's toes. I am not a micromanager as an owner. I don't dig into people's personal lives. I know about my personal lives, but I don't dig into what the decisions they're making. And I typically don't really critique them for making a bad decision.
Are you CEO right now?
I mean, we don't really have titles, but I don't have another CEO. I mean, I am owner, founder, president, CEO, president, you name it. Yeah. I mean, everything. I've got 2 director of operations that basically split the rest of every aspect of the restaurant down the middle. One of my director of operations handles anything and everything that happens in the stores. So he's responsible for service level, food quality, employees, atmosphere, everything that's inside the 4 walls of our restaurants. And then the other guy is at our corporate office, and he is in charge of everything, basically back office, back of the house kind of stuff. So all of our financial reporting, our POS systems, dabbles in our HR, does our purchasing, we have a production facility downtown Cleveland where we produce a lot of our raw ingredients and ship out to ourselves. Oh, so cool. He's in charge of all that. So he does a lot. And then, but those 2, the 3 of us essentially make a lot of the decisions for the company. Mm-hmm. But then we have an HR director who does a lot of that type of thing. We've got a facilities manager who handles all the facility issues that we have, that happens at our 10 locations. And then our production facility corporate office is at 11. So we have 11 buildings to keep track of. Yeah. So he's doing every single thing that he can, but they're all making decisions on a daily basis without picking up the phone and calling me, and because I trust these people. Yeah. I've worked with them and these are long-term employees. Like my facilities manager started with me on day 1. He was my original GM in the store. Wow. I knew him from a previous restaurant job. He was one of the first 12 people that worked for me. He has stuck with me since then. He's worn several hats in the company. He's an amazing dude. He's a good friend of mine. He understands the restaurant industry, but he was doing too much. A couple of years ago, he was trying to be the bar manager. He was trying to be the facilities guy, because we were still a small company. We still are. So I said, look, we have to make a decision here. Either you're going to focus on this, you're going to focus on this, because if you try to focus on both, you're not going to do a very good job at either of them. So I can find somebody else to do either position. What do you want to do? What do you love? Yeah. We gradually pushed him into the facilities management role, and he loves it. He does a fantastic job. But then who else? I think that's about it. So then myself, I pick up a lot of pieces that fall through the cracks. I deal with the lawyers. I deal with the accountants. I deal with the financial reporting. I deal with the bank accounts. I deal with the payables, make sure that everybody's paid, payroll. I had the marketing team for the company. I had the expansion, team. I go in the stores and I do things like this. Yeah. I'm the face of the brand, like it or not. So when people think of Melt, if you're familiar with the company, you think of me, whether that's good or that's bad.
Yeah.
It
is good.
If you have a great experience, and everyone loves me. If you have a poor experience, everybody hates me.
Well, it's just like anything else. I think that your brand carries into your restaurants. That is your personality, and either people are attracted to that or not. And if they come and they don't like it, then they'll be back, and that's okay too, because you're not for everybody.
No.
Not everyone is.
Yeah, my name is on the front door, and I'm still the owner, and the buck stops with me. But Melt stopped being my restaurant like literally 2 days after we opened the doors the first day, because I wanted it to be a certain thing, and I set it up to be a certain thing. But as restaurants go, the personality of the staff, the personality of the management team, the personality of what the guests are looking for really dictates where a restaurant especially goes. And Melt has turned several different ways. We've always stayed in the same path. We've just kind of turned a little bit, and we've changed, and we've adapted, and we've evolved. But a lot of the things that we still do today were brought to me by former employees or people that are still with me. Like, hey, we tried this, or have you thought about this, or how about this promotion, or hey, when the guests walk in the door, let's say this, or let's do this, or let's design this like this. So it really was, I was following my own path, but if I saw the staff rallying behind something and really getting into it, and the guests really embracing it, I was like, well, why don't we continue doing this?
Yeah.
I have no ego. I'm certainly not I'm never going to say, no, it's this way or no way. Yeah. Because life is gray. I am not a black and white guy, man. I am very gray. And I'm hopefully surrounded by a lot of people that think the same way, that this is a very gray lifestyle.
I got a gray shirt.
And I'm kind of gray.
Grayed up too.
Yeah.
I got a rhetorical question for you. You remember a point where it wasn't fun? Yes. And are you having fun right now?
Yeah, it's day to day. Some days I love what I do, and some days I hate what I do. I mean, that's completely honest. I mean, there's some days, and I get up in the morning, I'm like, oh, it's cool. I can't wait to do this, and this today, making these decisions. And then some days I have other things to do that I don't particularly enjoy. And I'm just like, oh, I'm dreading getting up, and I want to go do this today. Or I don't want to work late tonight, or I don't want to have to deal with this problem, issue, question. It's a lot of times we're putting out fires. I mean, a lot of times I go into a day and I have plans to do this, and this, and I don't get any of those done because something else comes up, and then I have to go handle that and put this fire out and deal with this problem, deal with this question. This email came in, or this guest had a poor experience, or this employee did this, or this manager said something, or, this happened, or we're out of this product, or, oh, we just had a tornado in Dayton, so the restaurant's closed for 2 weeks. It's a lot of those type of things. Like, oh my God. You don't think about doing that kind of stuff. That stuff. When you go into business, you don't think about, well, what's going to happen if? You never think. I mean, you don't think about that at all. When you get married, when you buy a house, when you have a kid, when I go and get in my car to drive back to you're not thinking about, well, what happens if? You're thinking about, I need to get to this next thing I need to go do, and life happens. Yeah. And sometimes life is fun because life happens, and sometimes life really sucks because life happens. So there's not, I mean, I can think of a time, it was yesterday, the day before, that I didn't like it anymore. But I can think about yesterday when I did really like it.
I've been there.
It's day to day.
Andrea, look up Michael Gerber. There's a book. And when the more you speak about that, the way you answered that question, Michael Gerber, I don't know why, it was one of my favorite books back 10 years ago. But the story, there's a story and a parable behind it, but it's an amazing book. We'll let the listeners know, and you too.
Yeah, I'd love
but
to.
I think you'll totally relate to it. But he tells the story about this lady who loved baking, and she didn't have her own shop. She was working for this other bakery, baking cookies, baking dough, you name it. It was just it was a bakery, so she was baking everything, and she loved baking. She was really good at it. And then all of a sudden, she's like, you know what? I can do this better than the owner's doing it, and she decided to open up her own bakery shop. Did it come up?
Is it $1 Million Women?
No. Michael Gerber?
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Oh, keep looking. It's
the most successful small business in the world.
You're getting there. That's not it either. But anyways, the premise of the story is that she opened up her own bakery. And now she was the baker. She was the cleaning lady. She was the accountant. She was the attorney. She was all these things. Sometimes she was the register person.
Oh yeah.
And all of a sudden she found it wasn't fun anymore, you know, and what she originally fell in love with was that part. For me, and everyone's different. So for me, it was an evolution. I mean, I started out selling homes. I started loving selling homes. I loved the reaction that I would get from an agent or from a happy client.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'd want to do that again. It was a little jolt to your
Right.
soul, which feels good when you help somebody, right? Which is what, when you serve something and you get a raving review, you're like, yes,
Oh,
I want to serve more of that.
Yeah.
But we start to move as we grow and as business owners. And you had said, hey, if anyone's looking to scale, don't do it. I know that you're only half serious, but you know, at the end of the day, I think you scale for many different reasons. One of them should be, in my opinion, should be more freedom to spend more time with family and this and that.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you would be, you know, doing the same thing right?
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
You know, it's a double-edged sword where, you know, some days it is. Some days it creates more freedom. It creates more opportunities, only for myself and my employees and the people that work for me. But some days it's like, I got to deal with all this stuff. I have to and there's not enough hours in the day. You know, it's funny that the bakery story you told is really funny because my wife is a baker. She went to culinary school. She's a pastry chef, a trained pastry chef, but she has never worked as a pastry chef because she loves baking. It was a goal she set for herself. She moved to New York City for that reason, to go to pastry school, to learn the art, but she never wanted to do it because she was afraid that she would lose the love of baking if she got into that industry. And I've asked her several times, like, why don't you open your own bakery? Why don't we open a bakery? We have this ability to do it. And she's thought about it, and it always comes back to the same answer. It's like, I don't want to eventually hate something that I love.
Right.
And there's some days, I'll be honest with you, that I hate what I created. I hate what I love. I loved cooking. I got into this industry because I loved being on the line. I loved cooking food. I loved the hustle and bustle. I loved the camaraderie you have with the restaurant employees. Yeah. I loved going out drinking with them after. I loved the late nights, the early mornings, all that stuff when I was a younger guy. When you open your own restaurant, I knew I would have, you know, and we were very small scale when we first opened up, and now we're pretty large scale now, but there's a lot of BS that comes along with it. And I haven't cooked at the restaurant. I mean, I could walk in right now and cook if I really wanted to, but I have not been needed on the line in several years. And because I took myself out of operations for a reason. I do miss it, but if I do that, then there's 8 other things that aren't being done. I mean, hundreds of emails that are coming in on a day, you know, that I need to filter through, and are problems or issues or questions. You know, back early in my career, I remember talking to a corporate chef at the time, and, you know, he said that the farther up the ladder that he has gotten, the farther out of the kitchen that he becomes. And when I was a kid, I didn't understand that. I was like, but you're a trained chef, like you're a corporate chef. You work for a very, like, you know, a hotel. It was like a Ritz-Carlton type person who was very high up in as a level on the corporation. But he's like, I'm an office guy. And like, I wear the suit, I had the hat on. I mean, you know, I wear my whites, I have the hat on, I look the part, but I was like, I'm sitting in front of a computer, I'm making schedules, I'm ordering food, I'm developing recipes, I'm passing stuff out to people. It's very rare that I cook. And when I was 20 something, I was like, that is so weird. Like there's no way that like, why would you be what you are and not be doing what you love? But now here I am sitting here. I'm exactly the same thing. So it makes sense to me. I still love what I do. At the end of the day, if I had to answer this a black and white question, do you enjoy what you do? I would say yes. But there's a lot of stuff that comes along with that. Yes. We didn't know what we didn't know when we decided to scale it up. Yeah,
you know?
It's not a capital yes. It's not a
yes.
It's not a capital Y, capital E, capital S, 2 exclamation points. Like,
yeah,
you know, it's just like, wow, how can I make this easier, not only for myself but for everybody? And that's one of the goals we have as a business, as a Melt Bar and Grill business. And I just had this conversation with my regional team, my director of operations guys on Monday. It's like 2020 and beyond has to be, how do we make this easier for ourselves? How do we make this easier for our staff? How do we make this easier for our guests? Like, how do we evolve? How do we, again, change what we do, how we operate?
Yeah.
And I don't have answers for that yet.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the fun.
It is,
especially if you got a good leadership team
like
you've assembled. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah. But I've also realized that the company, probably you and everybody else that runs a business, are very vulnerable because you rely so much on people. This is a people industry. This is a people business. You guys too. It's like, what happens if you lost 3 of your key people tomorrow? What happens if they just got a better offer from someplace, or they decided they're going to move to Florida?
I happen to have been there.
They get hit by a bus or something. It's like, what do you do? I don't have a backup plan. I don't have a contingency plan. It's like, I mean, we will get by. Yeah. But it's like, wow. Yeah, like, but again, this goes back to me getting in my car and driving back to Lakewood to have for another meeting today. I'm not planning on getting into a car accident. I'm not planning on things happening. So I don't have a plan in place in case it does, but things happen. Yeah. So
if someone walked into Melt today, just kind of wrapping up here, first of all, before we answer that question, did you find it?
No, they keep coming up like the Emyth.
That's it.
Is it?
Yeah. The Emyth. The Emyth.
Small businesses don't work.
Yeah. The Emyth Revisited. If you're watching this, and if you want some context behind what Matt's been talking about this entire time about, sometimes it doesn't get fun when you scale up, and there's this mirage that they're making all this money. The bigger we go, you're making more money. I don't know about you, but that has not been the case with my business. No. And I've had to find different ways. And, you think you know what you know until you get a 2x4 smacked across your head, and I'm going to make an assumption that may have happened to you. I know it's happened to me more times than I want to admit right now. But, in looking back at the journey, those are one of the biggest lessons. No one wants to hear that. Some bullshit, cliche. But we learned such good lessons. It is true, but you never want to go through it again. No. And so that's where I think the lessons.
Fortunately,
go ahead.
I'll say, fortunately, the lessons that I've learned and the problems and the pitfalls that we've had have not been 100% detrimental to the company. It's never really derailed the train. It's never really put us in a position where, shit, we're gonna have to close. But I still have problems. I still have things, but that's the thing that I feel fortunate about, is that I've learned from a lot of my past mistakes. And I admit I've made some mistakes more than once, but we'll see what happens.
I've had to write a check or two 1 month or two, for payroll. And I'm not ashamed to admit that. It was just that I know now that I'm never going to let that happen again, and get to that point. But it was through my journey of learning how to be a business person versus being a real estate agent, how to be a business person versus being a really great cook at Melt and running a restaurant. So if someone were to walk into Melt, any of the locations, I know they'll get a little bit different, but what is the experience that you hope they walk out and they say, what?
When they walk out, always the hope is that I can't wait to go back.
Why?
Why? Because we came up with something a couple of years ago, or way back when we first started, which I like to call the Melt experience, which is something. It's not the food, it's not the service, it's not the atmosphere. It's just this all-encompassing thing that happens when you walk in the doors, is where the staff is very engaging, very welcoming. The food is very comforting. Whatever's on TV, whatever that you're hearing, coming over the sound system, the pictures that we talked about earlier, like everything just kind of works together.
It melts in.
It should melt in. It should, cliche, but it should melt together, and you should feel very comfortable, and sometimes it hits, and the majority of the time it hits, but sometimes it doesn't, and we have to work on that. But that's what I want my guests to experience. I want them to walk in and have a great experience, but not necessarily know why they had a great experience. I don't want them to be able to put their finger on, like, well, the food was amazing, so we're coming back, or the service was outstanding, so we're coming back, or wow, this atmosphere is really cool and funky, I love it, I can't wait to come back. I want them to leave and be like, all those things worked together to create some sort of experience. So I can't wait to go back, or I can't wait to bring person X here. Or, a big compliment that we always get is we get a lot of out of towners that come in, people that are visiting Cleveland or visiting Columbus or from out of state that come in for a conference or just visiting a relative or something. And it's their first time in Melt, and they're like, holy mackerel, this is great. Why don't you come to here? Why don't you should open up in City X. We have nothing like this. I've never seen anything like this, where Clevelanders are just kind of like, we're jaded now. We're like, oh, Melt's been around. We know what Melt is, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I get it. I mean, I'm the same way with a lot of restaurants in Cleveland. I still go to a lot of restaurants in Cleveland, but it really is cool when we get out of towners that we will never see those people again. They may never come back to Cleveland again, but the only reason they came to Melt is because they heard of us, they saw us, they're passing through, they're visitors, and somebody said, oh, you want a Cleveland experience? You have to go to Melt.
Other than Melt, of course, what's your favorite restaurant in Cleveland? Or are you allowed not to say?
Oh, no, I'm allowed to say. I mean, I love, like I said, my wife and I lived in Tremont for almost 5 years. So I fell in love with a lot of restaurants down there. Dante is one of my favorite restaurants in Cleveland. I still think he's one of the best chefs, not only in Cleveland, but in the country. Does an amazing job. Super down-to-earth guy.
Agreed.
Ginkgo in the Basement is a fantastic sushi joint. Really good, fun experience. I mean, Dante's amazing. We go to Kinghua out in River a lot for Chinese food. Like, they do a fantastic job. We live over by Lock Keepers now, so we go there a decent amount. They have a really good food. I mean, I'm a vegetarian, so I'm kind of pigeonholing myself a little bit, but
yeah,
like Lucida's on 117th, still one of my favorite restaurants.
Love that place. Great family.
Yeah, Eric Williams at Mamocho and El Carnicero, they do a fantastic job. Johnny Mango, where I used to work, I was there for almost 6 years. The family that owns the business, great people. I would not be sitting here today if I didn't work for them, because they really showed me that it's possible for a schmuck off the street to open up a restaurant and be successful. Like, not having a financial backing, not having just having a really good idea and a drive and an ambition and a willingness to put 110% in and to work your ass off to make it work. Because I saw it firsthand. I worked for them, and they started it from nothing and built it into what it is. And it's an institution. It's been there for well over 20 some years. And I got the opportunity to work with them, work for them, to help run their restaurant. And I said, wow, if they can do it and they can be successful, then I can do it and I can be successful.
I just got a new hashtag for us.
Us?
And then, us. Anyone who's from Parma. Just a kid from Parma.
It
I mean,
is.
LeBron gets away with it. Why can't we start the new trend? My buddy Hesh Sagafi, I don't know if you Hesh is a guy from your area, in that Normandy area, runs a very successful mortgage company. Kid from Parma. I know a lot of successful kids.
That should be one of your things for your podcast, is you should focus on people that made it out of Parma and were successful. I don't mean make it out like I don't live there anymore, but like, Parma is very blue collar. It's what it is. And it's been, did you know Parma was the biggest suburb in the United States back in the what was it, the 50s, 60s?
I thought it was in Ohio. I didn't know. Maybe it is United States.
That's what I thought. It's not anymore, but it used to be way back.
Yeah.
This is turn of the century.
I imagine like the population is as far as too, because it was just melting
still
pot.
Pretty enormous. I think the population is dropping, but Parma's unrecognizable. Some areas of Parma I drive through every so often. I'm just like, what happened? Where did Parmatown Mall even go? Like, what is it now? It's like,
we're making it better.
Happened?
My folks still live there.
Oh, I agree. My dad lived there up until last year, and he just downsized the house that we grew up in. So he moved to Strongsville, so it's still close. But
sure,
I still have some roots in Parma. I don't have any relatives left in Parma, but I still have some roots over there too. Yeah,
man. Thanks for coming by.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was nice meeting you and telling your story. And I'm sure everybody. I hope you guys enjoyed that. And tune in. This is CLE Live to our next episode. Until then, check this out. Hey, Cleveland. This episode is brought to you by the friendly realtors at Stasek Group of eXp Realty. They have a proven, repeatable system. It's backed by market research to sell your home for up to 18% more than traditional real estate agents. So, call them. You can call them at 440-925-1018. It's 440-925-1018, or go to stasekgroup.com. That's stasekgroup.com. All right.